Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. 6 NATO troops have been killed in Afghanistan in the latest deadly attack on the U.S.-led occupation. 5 of the soldiers died in a single roadside bombing. The attack comes one day after the U.S. military claimed to have killed the Afghan militants responsible for shooting down a U.S. helicopter, killing 30 U.S. soldiers as well as 8 Afghans. Speaking from a base in Kabul, the top U.S. commander in Afghanistan, General John Allen, announced the strike.
At approximately midnight on 8 August, coalition forces killed the Taliban insurgents responsible for this attack against the helicopter, which we assess was an RPG round. This action was a continuation of the original mission to dismantle the Taliban network in the Syedabad district of the Wardak province. This does not ease our loss, but we must and we will continue to relentlessly pursue the enemy.
Amnesty International is calling on NATO to investigate claims some 85 Libyan civilians were killed in a bombing Monday night. The regime of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi says the victims were assembled in a series of farmhouses near the capital Tripoli, and that 33 children were among the dead. Independent journalists have reported seeing up to 30 body bags at the scene, including 4 that contained women and children. On Wednesday, a local doctor criticized NATO for the attack.
يعني ما تقدرش تقيمها بتقييم إنساني.
I want to make sure there was no tone.
This is not humanitarian. We are used to looking to the West and Europe as ideal examples. But what we are seeing now is the extreme of inhumanity. They are not humans. What makes me say this is the people behind me. Look at them.
The Syrian government continues a crackdown on opposition protesters amidst growing international pressure. At least 16 people have reportedly been killed in the town of Homs. Syrian troops also took control of the restive city Deir ez-Zor on Wednesday following 4 days of attacks. Syrian forces also reportedly raided 2 towns near the border with Turkey, just 1 day after the Turkish foreign minister called for an end to attacks on Syrian civilians. The embattled Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, meanwhile, has admitted his forces, quote, made some mistakes in its response to the uprising. Assad spoke in a private meeting with a delegation of UN Security Council members from Brazil, India and South Africa. At the UN, Syrian envoy Bashar Jafari caused a stir after comparing the situation in Syria to the riots in Britain.
It's very indicative and informative to hear the Prime Minister of England describing the riots and the rioters in England as by using the term gangs, while they don't allow us to use the same term for the armed groups and the terrorist groups in my country. This is hypocrisy. This is arrogance.
President Obama is expected to publicly call on Assad to step down. White House Press Secretary Jay Carney said the U.S. is watching the violence in Syria, quote, with horror.
The growing chorus of criticism aimed at President Assad for his heinous actions is not an accident. It is because we are all watching with horror what he is doing to his own people, and we are working with our international partners to ensure that pressure continues to be placed and is ramped up on President Assad, and we'll continue to do that.
Republicans have announced their 6 appointments for the new Congressional Super Committee, tasked with proposing at least $1.5 trillion in cuts to the deficit. Joining the panel from the House will be Congress members Jeb Hensarling of Texas and Dave Camp and Fred Upton, both from Michigan. Joining from the Senate, Senators John Kyle of Arizona, Rob Portman of Ohio, and Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. All 6 have publicly opposed raising taxes on the wealthy. In a statement, the group Common Cause said panel members should choose between staying on the committee or maintaining their roles in top leadership and fundraising positions for their respective parties. Hensarling chairs the House Republican Conference, while Kyle is the Senate Republican whip. The panel's Democratic co-chair, Senator Patty Murray of Washington, is chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. President Obama met with top officials at the White House Wednesday to address the nation's struggling economy. The meeting included Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke, Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner, White House Chief of Staff Bill Daley, and Gene Sperling, Director of the National Economic Council. White House Press Secretary Jay Carney said Obama has made a number of calls in recent days to foreign leaders to discuss slumping markets at home and abroad.
The President has, as you know, spoken in recent days with a number of European leaders, with Chancellor Merkel, President Sarkozy, Prime Minister Berlusconi, President Zapatero. He has also this morning spoken with Prime Minister Cameron and is in a regular consultation with European leaders on these matters. Secretary Geithner is in regular consultation with his counterparts in Europe. We obviously are monitoring these events very closely, and we continue to believe that the Europeans have the capacity to deal with this problem.
Top UN officials are pleading for more international aid to address the famine in the Horn of Africa. Speaking to the Security Council, the UN envoy to Somalia, Augustine Mahiga, called on donors to boost funding.
I strongly urge you, members of the Council, to appeal to your own governments and to the international community to generously support the humanitarian relief operation currently underway in Somalia. We need approximately $1 billion for Somalia, channeled through our consolidated appeal process to avert a further worsening of this emergency. So far, we have received less than 50% of this sum.
Catherine Bragg, the UN Assistant Secretary General for Emergency Relief Operations, said children continue to be the most at risk.
Children are the most affected by the crisis, and an estimated 1.25 million children across southern Somalia are in urgent need of life-saving assistance. Tens of thousands of children have already died, and many more will die in the coming days unless aid is provided to them.
The Associated Press has revealed the U.S. is helping fund a private company to train African Union soldiers for the fight against al-Qaeda-linked militants in the capital city of Mogadishu. Contractors with the Washington-based company Bancroft Global Development frequently accompany African troops as advisors in their efforts to combat the Islamist group al-Shabaab. According to U.S. and UN officials, the Mogadishu team is made up of approximately 40 former South African, French, and Scandinavian soldiers. The company also shares intelligence information with the FBI, including the DNA of suicide bombers. Bancroft has paid millions of dollars for its services by the governments of Uganda and Burundi, who in turn are then reimbursed by the State Department. Bancroft has also received at least $12.5 million in U.S. government contracts since 2008. British Prime Minister David Cameron will address Britain's Parliament today on the nation's ongoing unrest. The legislative body has been recalled from summer recess to hold an emergency debate following 4 days of rioting. Cameron's expected to face questions about the cause of the riots and whether he will revisit the issue of budget cuts that critics say have overstretched British police. Police officers have begun raiding homes in search of rioting suspects, executing over 100 warrants. The London police said it would keep its unprecedented 16,000 officers in the street for at least another night. Authorities say over 1,200 people have been arrested so far, the majority in London. Police, meanwhile, have launched a murder investigation after 3 young men of Pakistani descent were killed in the city of Birmingham Tuesday night when a car crashed into a group of residents attempting to protect a local business. The father of one of the victims said he witnessed his son's death.
I heard the thud and ran around, and I seen 3 people on the ground. And my instinct was to help the 3 people. I didn't know who they were, who'd been injured. I helped the first man, and somebody from behind told me that my son was lying dead behind me. So I started CPR on my own son. My face was covered in blood. My hands were covered in blood. Why? Why? Well, the guy who killed him drove directly into the crowd and killed 3 innocent guys. Why? What was the point of doing that? I don't understand. We're here defending the community of all the problems that are going on in the country.
The riots began last Saturday night in the North London section of Tottenham following a vigil for Mark Duggan, a 29-year-old black man shot dead by police. On Wednesday, a number of suspects accused of taking part in the rioting were arraigned in London court. One of them said he was arrested because of his ethnicity.
There was no riot in Lewisham where I was, but I was a black teenager. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry for being a black teenager.
Back in the United States, federal officials have acknowledged knowing about the dangerous bacteria found in turkey produced by the food giant Cargill well before this month's massive recall. In one of the largest meat recalls in U.S. history, Cargill recalled 36 million pounds of ground turkey after at least one person died from salmonella. Another 76 people fell ill from turkey products traced to Cargill's processing plant in Springdale, Arkansas. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says it discovered a dangerous form of salmonella in Cargill's turkey at least once last year and 4 times this year, but did not push for a recall until the outbreak occurred. The USDA cited agency rules that don't hold salmonella as a dangerous contaminant in meat unless that meat results in illness or death. And New York City has reached an agreement with the cable giants Cablevision and Time Warner that includes a major expansion of community media. The deal doubles the number of public educational and government access channels, bringing community media programming to high definition and video on demand. The cable giants will fund Wi-Fi service in 32 parks, develop over 40 public computing centers, and furnish free internet in public libraries. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy.